Hi, everybody. My name is Valerie Partynski, and I've been an Andis educator for 2 years. I'm an award-winning groomer. I'm here with Gwendolyn, and we are going to go over some competitive grooming stuff with her standard poodle today. So, Gwendolyn, why don't you tell me how you got interested in grooming and how you got interested in competitive grooming?
So, my mom has been a groomer my whole entire childhood since I've ever known. And basically, I just grew up into the shop, and that's where I got my grooming passion from. And then my mom's employee, she used to be a competitive groomer. So, my mom got into competitive grooming, and then that's how I got into competitive grooming.
And how did you choose that dog? How did you acquire that dog? And who is your dog?
This is a Salda. We own her. She's our standard poodle. She's what I have for right now, so I work with her and I'm doing my best to put her in the best haircut.
Well, if there's anything that I could say about having a dog that's not completely perfect, it's that you learn the most fixing dogs' faults. And then when you do get that perfect dog on your grooming table, it's like cutting through butter. It's so easy and fun and smooth. So you'll get the best experience learning on your dog for sure. So I have Fury here. She's my 6-month-old puppy. We just got her. She's a miniature poodle, and she's eventually going to be uh, my competition dog. So I'm really excited about that. She's just as cute as could be. So excited to have her here too, so that I'll be able to kind of guide you with the lines on her. I thought it would be really beneficial to kind of be able to show you a little bit on her, little changes that you can make, even though she's not groomed, still being able to actually have a visual, I thought would be really helpful today.
That's awesome. I feel like a lot of groomers are visual learners, so it will be great to have her up on the screen with us.
I am so excited to be doing this episode. This is going to be prep for the winning cut. And what we're going to talk about is what is going to happen in the ring from the very beginning to when they say scissors down. We're going to talk about how to get ready to go into the competition ring, how to prep your dog. And this particular episode will be about the German trim on a poodle. The way that this trim varies, the German trim is basically just the modern trim. It's the exact same trim, but they don't have the palm on the tail, and they get the ears shaved. So that is the only difference between this trim and your regular modern trim that most people compete with in the grooming competition ring. So I'm going to give a whole bunch of tips on how to prepare for every single show, how to prepare for your class, and also the little tiny tricks that make a big difference on your trim for your dog in the competition ring.
So, with just like the 2 years that I've been in competitive grooming, I have made so many sacrifices, achievements, and I have created so many new goals. And there has just been so much going into the competitive grooming. And it's really been fun, but other times it's exhausting and hard. And I feel like it all pays off. But because you have so much experience with competitive grooming, can you give me a little background on like, what happened in your past and how far you've come from then?
So, just like you, I'm a second generation groomer. My mom is still a groomer to this day. And she decided that she was going to send me to grooming school because she didn't want to teach me herself. And she wanted me to get professional training, which was great because I ended up going to the Great Lakes Grooming Academy in Illinois that was taught by Jeannie Mulcahy and Megan Mulcahy, who are both Jeannie Mulcahy is very well known in the industry as one of the best creative groomers of her time. She made the cover of many magazines. Megan was a competitive groomer starting at the age of 9 years old. So I learned from the greats of the industry, which was really exciting. And I was lucky enough to go to grooming competitions with them while I was in school. I would travel with them when Megan was competing. So I got a little taste of it while I was still in school. And just loved the feeling of it. I loved going to the shows and shopping and seeing all these wonderful groomers up on the stage, and it really gave me the bug to want to do it in the future. And I had a standard poodle at the time, my mom did anyway, and she let me start practicing, and I did compete with him for a few competitions. All American, which is in Illinois, did not place with him, and of course going in, I thought that I was so great and was very disappointed. And then you start learning that there's a lot to learn. And there's always so much to learn. You're never going to walk in and just be the best. It doesn't work that way. It takes experience and training and just training your eye and practice, so much practice. So many years of just kind of going randomly to the grooming competitions went by, and I heard of a show that was happening near us, and it was a last minute thing. I heard that it was going on. It was for entry and intermediate only, no open competitors. It was a very small show put on by, I believe, Lisa Levy, and I ended up getting first place with the standard poodle that I had just randomly acquired last minute, and first place with a mixed breed that I had found from the shop, and ended up winning best in show at that show. And that was my first really big win. I was very pregnant. We have a picture of it. I mean, I was like huge, like I could barely walk around. So it was such a rewarding experience to just go out there. And that would have been about 11 years ago now. And I've been pretty consistently competing since then. Mostly my specialties are poodles and also hand strips. And then I recently got a Kerry Blue Terrier a couple of years ago. So I've been really practicing that trim too, and hope to, once COVID and everything is over, to bring him out and hopefully do really well with him also.
It's so cool to like hear about your experience of because of how much experience you've had. So it's awesome to hear about all of your past and how far you've come and how much you've achieved. So along the lines of you being a part of Andis, how did you ever become part of that company, and what inspired you to be an educator?
Well, I was lucky enough to later on be hired to be an instructor at the grooming school that I went to. So I started training people from day one and really learned how to teach people. Teaching people is not easy. It is extremely difficult. It is much harder than grooming a dog. And I learned a lot from every single one of my students, and how to use words that would make it click for people, and use shapes, and just figure out different learning styles for different people. And one random day after All American, Todd Shelley, who is I believe he's the president of Barkley Industries, and they own most of the grooming competitions out there, most of the shows. He asked me if I would want to host at the Florida show. I believe that's an NDGAA show, if I wanted to host for the on-camera stuff that they did. And I, of course, I was like thrilled and jumped at the chance to do it, and flew through a hurricane to get there. It was as scary as could be, and I'm so scared of flying. And went there and just kind of walked around and was able to talk about all of the vendors that were at that show. And after that experience, Barkley asked me if I wanted to start teaching seminars. And I was just so thrilled to be able to start teaching the seminars. And after I did one, that was my tester one, and I got really great reviews. I was so excited. I had such a good time. And I asked if I could keep teaching, and they said, absolutely. And because of that, and of course, competing and just kind of being seen all the time at the shows, Nicole Kalish had become the person in charge of the education department at Andis, and asked me if I would like to become an educator with them. And it was just like such a great thing. I just was so giddy. I just immediately called my mom and was so excited about it. So I'm so happy to be a part of the Andis team and to just constantly be able to teach. And even in these ridiculously crazy times, I'm still able to do it from home, which is really, really nice, and just do the best with what we have to work with right now.
So I'm pretty sure all competitive groomers know that going into a competition can be challenging. It's very stressful and it's scary, but I'd love to know what's the most challenging thing for you in a competition, and then the opposite of that, what's your favorite thing?
Uh, there's so many things that are so hard. I would say the number one thing that's hardest for me is the lack of sleep. And it, no matter how how much I time it out, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this dog at this time and prep this dog. No matter what, I can't sleep when I'm at the competitions, and I'm so tired, and I'm not even thinking straight. And also staying hydrated is very important and hard to do when you're there. But in the actual competition ring, the hardest thing is your time management. That's the hardest part for sure. It's there's so much to think about, and you want your dog to be so perfect. And you could, every time they say scissors down, you could always use another half hour. It doesn't matter. Like, even if your dog you feel like is really, really good, no matter what, you could always use an extra half hour. So that's really tough.
So, to start to bring the conversation more to the haircut we're about to do, what is the most difficult thing for you to do in a German haircut?
I would say that the hardest thing about the poodles in general is setting in their rears and their chests. I think that that is the hardest part. So that's what I struggle with the most, is definitely the rear and the chest, and also finish work in general, especially when you're doing a standard. That is a lot of hair to comb through and try to get a perfect finish on. I've always made a joke about myself that my dogs are like Monet. They usually look really nice from far away, but then when you get up close, it's a mess. Because you can put a nice profile on a dog and hopefully that looks nice, but then it's really hard to get that perfect finish in the ring when you're rushing in a time constraint. So I would say all of those things. Okay, so we're going to start talking about what happens when you're in the competition ring from the very beginning. So when you go in, you will be assigned a number for your table. You will bring your dog in and put your dog on the table and get all of your gear set up. That'll be your shears, your snap-on combs, your 5-in-1 blades, everything that you are going to need. You're going to want out and ready to go so that you don't have to search for it while you're within the time limit. Now, for the German trim, you can already have your feet shaved for most of the competitions. I don't know if there are any left that they don't allow it, but you can have the feet done ahead of time. So you would want those to be perfectly shaved either the night before or the morning of. Your dog should be bathed and completely blown out and fluff dried. Ears clean, nails filed, sanitary trim done. And your judge will come up and comb through your dog as you have it stacked so that they can see how much hair you have on your dog to start. And for your standard poodles, you are allowed 2 hours and 15 minutes. So as soon as the timer goes off, you start grooming your dog as fast as you can, as fast as you can, and as well as you can for that 2 hours and 15 minutes until they say scissors down, where you would then clear off your table, make it look as presentable as possible. You don't want any hair on the table, especially make sure that there is no hair on the dog's underside of the feet. That's a spot that always catches a lot of hair in it, so that your judge doesn't have to comb or brush that out themselves. And at that point, you would stack up your dog. And usually your judge will be walking around the entire time to get a nice uh, view from afar so that they can see everybody's profiles together. And then eventually they will come to every single dog and comb through them to look at your finished work and your profile. And that is when they will decide who wins. Okay, prejudging, stacking your dog. One little tip that I'm going to show you is to, from underneath the chin, I want you to lift up just a little bit and just get those legs underneath them. There we go. Yeah, that's a beautiful stack right there. And then get that tail up if she'll let you. There you go. Okay, that's very good. And then just a slight lift from underneath the jaw, just to kind of get that presence of the neck a little bit, leaning the nose just slightly down. That looks great. Okay, so this is a really, really beautiful haircut. Really beautiful. And I mean, barely any tweaks need to be made just to kind of give it that extra edge. Your bevels look very, very pretty. Your rear angulation looks beautiful. Your The way that you have the tail set in the rear looks really, really great. You separated the tail from the rear. Your chest actually looks really good too. I think it just needs like a teeny tiny little tweak. Um, the only things that I'm noticing are that your front end looks a little heavy compared to the back, just like that balance that we were talking about earlier. The other thing that would really help is in the future, we're going to have to grow out the tuck up area to move it forward. Right now, it's making your dog look very long because your tuck up is back here as opposed to right behind the last rib, which is where you want it. Just a little bit of growth you're going to need because you've got beautiful rear angulation in the back, but you don't have it in the front of the back leg. It doesn't flow, so you can't see as much angulation as you want. Right now, it's a pretty straight line going from your tuck up down to your foot. And what you want is your curves to follow from the rear to the front of the leg and then back out to the hocks. Okay, so I'm sure you already know it, but just for the people that are watching, I'm going to go over the lines. It's going to be from inner corner of the eye to the inner corner of the eye, a straight line from the outer corner of the eye, straight going into the ear. These are your points, your starting points. And then when you are feeling the throat of dog, you're going to run your finger down the throat, and right before it indents in, which on her is right here, you're going to go slightly above it and shave from there. So those are your points. And then you would just go from ear to the point at the throat and shave everything in between in reverse. So as you can see on her poodle's face, there are all kinds of the hair swirls in all different directions. So she's basically shaving in all different directions right now to make sure that the hair is short. Because if you go with the grain on some areas and against the grain on others where the hair is swirling, it's going to look long in some places and shorter on others. So that's why she's pulling the skin nice and tight and then shaving in all different directions to make sure that it's all one length in the end. So the clippers that she's using are the Pulse Li5 by Andis, and having a cordless 5-in-1 clipper. Now what the 5-in-1 means is that it goes from blade sizes 9, 10, 15, 30, and 40, and it's all adjustable on the blade, which is absolutely wonderful in the competition ring because they're a nice small clipper and they're great for doing your prep work, and especially on your poodles for shaving the feet, faces, and tail bands and sanitary areas. So they are definitely a must-have to have in the competition ring for all of those basic steps. Okay, so I did have a question though. What blade did you use on the ears?
We used a 30 on the inside, and then we used a 5 on the outside.
Perfect. Okay. So just for anyone that doesn't know, on the German trim, they could either have, they always have short ears, like shaved ears, not long like this poodle's, but either they shave the entire tail with whatever I would shave the tail band on. So on this dog, it's a 40. They would shave that entire tail and then shave the ears with like a 10 or a 15. So very, very short so that they match. If you're doing a Kerry blue tail like Gwendolyn did here, then you would use a little bit of a longer blade, like she said, the 5F, so that they leave just a little bit of fluff just so that you have some balance there. Okay, so with the foot, and for anybody that doesn't know, when you're doing a shaved foot on a poodle, the way that you measure how far to go up so that you don't get any sort of crazy high shaved feet is on your standard poodle. I measure by going to the back pad from the underneath, and I will go one finger above the top of the back pad. And that is my starting point. So I set that in so that I have a line of measurement, and then I follow it all around the foot. And that is going to be the exact place where the ankle bone is, where that foot bends. So that's how I figure it out. And I'll just kind of swipe it down the entire foot first, not even worrying about digging in between the toes or anything, just so that I have that line set and making sure that it's perfectly straight all the way around. Another important thing to do is make sure that you start all of your work from underneath the pads so you can get in between the toes and around the toenails while doing all of your pad work. So separating those pads and digging in, not hard, of course, but in between those pads and getting all of that really neat and clean before you even start doing the top of your poodle foot. Yes, exactly, Gwendolyn. That looks great. You know all the tricks. So now you've got your prep work done. So let's go over what is already good and done right now. You've got a straight top line, which is very important. You have angles when the tail is up, and then you have nice rear angulation going down the back leg. Now, I would start growing out more hair on the back leg. Do you see how on this dog, I know it's hard to see because she's black, but it's very, very tight at the back of the leg where the natural bend is. And then from there, there's a lot more hair. So right now it looks more like a terrier style back of the leg where you've got hair, it's pretty tight going all the way almost down to the hock. I would start growing just below where your bend of the leg is so that you could get more rear angulation when you come in and then come back out. So your front legs are straight, which is great. A lot of people will make them look bowed here, and yours aren't at all. I think your top knot is very balanced and very nice. And you should line up the back of the neck should line up with the back of the front leg. So this is where the measurements come in. Where the longest part of the neck should line up with the back part of your front leg. A couple of other measurements, which it looks like you have right now, would be your tuck up, setting in your tuck up. Now remember, this is a puppy, so she doesn't stand perfectly just yet, but here is your tuck up right here. It should go from the back of the foot, line up through your tuck up, which is the back 1/3 of your dog, and then that should flow through into your crest. So going from here up through your tuck up into your crest area, it should all flow. Now, do you see from doing that how far back your tuck up is right now?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
There you need to grow hair because it needs to be moved forward. Right now, what it's doing is creating a lot of space in the middle of your dog, which makes your dog look very long. So a really great way to figure out if your legs are balanced with each other is you take the end of your comb, and let's just pretend that this is a ruler. And I'm going to put the end of it at the bend in the leg, the back of the back leg. I'm going to put the end of it and set it right on to her leg. And then I'm going to use my finger so that I know exactly how wide that is. Here's my measurement right now. That's how wide my back leg is. And then I'm going to take that and place it on my front leg to make sure that they are the same size, which on this dog, they're not. So that means that I have to grow more hair here. And that's how you start figuring out how to balance your dog, is by knowing that those match up.
Mine have about 2 comb bristles shorter on my front leg.
Okay. So now you know, and that's not a lot, but now you know how to measure it so that you know that they are the same, and that'll help you with your balance a lot. You can't really do anything with the front of the back leg right now because you need some growth there. But in the future, when you are practicing, it would be a good idea to start from the bottom when you're trimming, because you need to grow some knee hair, because you want these to match up here. Now, again, this is puppy hair. She doesn't have a lot of it, but in the end, they should flow together. The back should match the front. So we want to have that angulation in the front and the back. Do you see how yours goes straight from your tuck up down?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just that little bit of hair is going to make a huge difference. So these are just like the tiniest little changes that you'll want to make.
Right. Okay.
So tell me about, I know that you said that you struggle a lot with your bevels. What is it that gives you trouble with them?
Normally I either put them too high up or too low. So and I know to follow the shave line, but is there any like extra more helpful tips to get a better balance with not going too high or low?
So what I do is I comb it all down with a fine tooth comb, straight down, make sure you don't miss any hairs. And then I pick up the foot, only touching the shaved portion so that we don't mess up what we did. And then I just trim right along that shaved line, anything that went below it. On all sides, all the way around. Because I feel like a lot of times if you pull all the hair down while you're doing it, you're going to get those really high bevels that you don't want. Now on the back foot, since you're doing the back foot, you could comb it all down and just leave them standing and trim around your shave line. And then the next step that I would do is I would trim around there, and then I would comb it all up. And that's when you just neaten up your bevel. It's really just about setting in that line so you don't have any hair below your shave line. But then after that, once that's set in, it's really just about angling it a little bit up.
So basically I should go in and comb everything down and then take my shears and clear it all up next to the shave line and then do the bevel.
Yes, and one little thing that I want to point out is to make sure when you're holding your shears and you're trimming along that bevel, when you're trimming along the shave line, make sure you're not angling them at all. Because if you're angling them up, then you're going to grab way too much hair, and that's going to give you those really high bevels too. Well, thank you so much, Gwendolyn, for doing this with me. I had so much fun, and thank you so much for being excited to become a competitive groomer and learning new things. I hope that you had a good time and learned some stuff. And thank you to 123 Pet and Andis for putting this whole thing together. It's really great.
Thank you so much, Valerie, for teaching me stuff. I learned a lot, and I can't wait to use the things that you taught me in my next groom, or I might even finish grooming her after this. So thank you so much, and huge appreciation to 123 and Pets and Andis for sponsoring this video and for putting this together. Absolutely amazing.